As you can see, we're at a really, really weedy Emmotland Pond 3. Now, in all the years that I've fished this lake, I don't think I've ever seen it this weedy. But despite the weed, it is still possible to get these fish out of here. But you've obviously got to have the right tactics to do it. So what I'm going to do now is take a look at my approach to fishing a really weedy water like this one. Now, the first thing to consider is obviously swim choice. And as you can see around here, there's an awful lot of weed. So you want an area of water that's going to give you not only the best chance of hooking fish, but also the best area for landing fish. And as you can see around here where I'm set up now, it's not clear, but it's relatively clear compared to other areas on the lake. Now, I also know about this lake that a lot of the fish tend to congregate out in that middle area. There's quite a few clear areas out there that the fish have created through being there and also through feeding. So it's also a good area to fish and present a bait effectively. You can see down this margin here, it's also very, very clear, but you can see this without Polaroids. You can also see there's a lot of grass on the bottom down there, which causes all sorts of problems with presentation. If you're going to use the chod rig like a lot of anglers do, then obviously that's a good choice, but I tend to shy away from the chod rig. I've actually never caught a fish on a chod rig. I tend to stick to the rigs that have caught me fish over the years that I'm really happy with, and I like something out on the bottom that's nice and clear, and there's quite a few clear areas out here on the bottom. So these are the areas that I've considered to present a bait. And as you can see, I've only got 2 rods out at the moment as well. You know, it would obviously give me much more of a chance to put 3 or even 4 rods out when there's nobody here, but I like to keep things nice and simple. I know where the fish tend to hide out and where they tend to feed on this water, and it's just at the back of this weed here. You can see this like slight strip of weed there. There's a few clear areas just over the back of there, and to fish more than 2 rods in that area, really, you're sort of causing yourself more problems than it's worth, because certainly with carp at this time of the year, which is August, they're very hard fighting, and they're just starting to move about again, ready for the autumn, and you end up with all sorts of problems with fish going through lines when you hook them and that. So I tend to keep it nice and simple and just keep 2 rods to this particular swim. So when it comes to the rod setup then, as you can see, I've got my tips nice and high in the air. Now obviously I don't always fish like this when I'm fishing weedy lakes. It all depends on the swim that I'm fishing, but on this occasion, as I said, I'm trying to present a bait effectively just over the back of these weed beds that are just out here. And so I want as much line as I possibly can out of the water. And the reason for that is not only does it make sure that the line's nice and safe and away from all the weed, it also aids with the sensitivity of your setup, the landing of the fish as well. You know, obviously you've got to consider all these things when you're setting your rods up. Too many people follow fashions and set things up as they've seen on the latest DVD or how they like their setup to look. I don't really care what my setup looks like, so long as it's putting me in with the best chance of catching fish. And I'm tight lining to these reels, and these particular reels I'm using now, I've got no bait runner facility on them, but what I've basically got is I'm fishing off the clutch, and the clutches are as tight as they can possibly go. I'm fishing locked up, as we call it, and then all I'm waiting for is a couple of 3 bleeps on the indicator. The tip's going to start knocking down, and then we game on with the fish. And as long as I've got the rig set up nice and perfect, which I'll take a look at in a short while, it's then a case of just getting that fish through that weed. And it is really just hook and hold when you're battling with fish out amongst weed like that. You've really got to have confidence in your gear, fish nice and strong stuff. I'm on mono straight through, and this is the NXT from Nash, and that's the 15 £. Very, very tough line, perfect for this kind of situation. And then it is just literally just weave him through the weed as much as you can. Obviously you're going to get a few that's going to get stuck in the weed, but as long as you're fishing with the right setup and you're on those rods as quick as possible, it is possible to get them out of there. First fish then on the citrus, a lovely 23.5 pound common. And there you go, the end result. A lovely 23.5 pound Yorkshire common. Not bad for an overnighter. Absolutely fantastic. So let's consider the rig then, and it really is very, very simple as always with me. For the last 25 odd years I've used a very, very simple basic setup when it comes to my rig. I change a few of the components from time to time. It's mainly down to just what I'm finding in the tackle box or what's in front of me on the day. But today what I've got is a really simple setup. As you can see there, that's the hook bait. That's one of the new Nash Citrus bottom baits. That's just taken straight out of the bag, and then I've got a piece of mutant corn on the end which just counters the weight of the hook, because the hook that I'm using today, as you can see, is quite a large hook. That's a size 6 Fang X, and I think it's an important point to emphasise when it comes to weed fishing, is that don't take any chances whatsoever when it comes to hook size. The smaller you go, obviously you're going to get more pickups, but the less chance you're going to land those fish, and that's quite a large hook really for English fishing. That's a size 6, and that's a 15mm bottom bait as well that's next to it. So as you can see, it is a large setup there, but it works. And I always think that when I get that take, I want to have the best chance of landing those fish. And that's basically line and lined, as you can see there, to a braided hook link. I use all sorts of different braids. Sometimes I use the Nash stuff, sometimes I use the Kriston stuff, and that's all attached to a simple swivel. And then we've got the lead clip there, and this is an important part of the rig. This is one of the weed safety lead clips from Nash. And I'm using a really heavy lead. That's a 4.5 ounce lead, because basically what I'm wanting to do is, once that fish picks up that hook bait, it then realises it's hooked, it's felt the weight of the lead, it starts to bolt, and basically what happens is the lead clip comes free from the lead, and then you're just left with the fish hitting the surface, because what tends to happen is once that lead comes off, the fish hits the surface and you can then bully it through the weed. It is a really simple setup. I think you can go too technical when it comes to your rigs, and sometimes when you get too technical it really does confuse you. But so long as you keep it nice and simple in weed or in any situation really, you've got a great chance of landing those fish. Right then, now for quite a while there's been a couple of fish in Emmotland Pond 3 that I've really wanted. Now the number one fish, which is Big C, that's the one that's avoided me the most. That's the one that I've been really targeting, but there's quite a few 30-pound commons in here as well now. And this particular fish is known as the perfect common. It's avoided me for a long while as well, but I've managed to track him down at 31 pounds. An absolutely stunning fish that only gets caught possibly once or twice a year, sometimes not at all. And to catch this old warrior, because he is an old warrior, he's been around a few years, he's absolutely fantastic. It's properly made my summer already. Really old fish, and a really pristine fish as well, and a rare one to boot. So absolutely fantastic. That's basically it then, and the last thing for me to say is that we're approaching now one of the best times of the year to be out on the bank. We're getting towards September time, when the fish are going to have a big old munch as they approach the autumn time, and there's still going to be a lot of weed about. So fish with confidence, fish in the ways that I've just mentioned today in this little video, and hopefully you'll have a few fish on the bank over the next few weeks.